Have you ever considered what music the Bee Gees would make if they took a brief holiday through the German indie folk forest? Well, fear no more, as Milky Chance have released their new banging hybrid German indie folk disco album, Living In A Haze. And boy, does it get one grooving indeed. In my last video, Milky Chance detailed who are Milky Chance. I noted that the band had been subtly changing their sound over the past few years, and it seems that Living In A Haze, they've really gone full whack for it now and said screw it, get the flares and the disco ball out, because we're going to party town on this one, as Milky Chance have provided us with an absolute belter of a summer album. So get your shades on and trim your moustache to its ultimate potential, and head over to the local discoteca to get your groove on to some Milky Chance. Now, although I loved Milky Chance's first album, Sad Necessary, that consisted of that traditional German indie folk sound. I got to admit, from the first tune, Living In A Haze, right through to the end track, Frequency of Love, I absolutely love this new record too. First things first though, I understand OG fans of Milky Chance might not be too into this album, as there is a tendency to go for what I can only call, and have previously directed, a stir towards disco-styled alternative pop, mainly prevalent on Living In A Haze with the synth pop groovy, hip swing, head bobbing, shoulder shrugging styled tunes, continuing through Golden, Synchronized, Flicker in the Dark, and Feeling For You. But do not fear, because even if that isn't your style, albeit the main stylization for which the album seems to take, there are still more breezy guitar tunes with more emotional aimed lyrics, such as Purple Tiger, Favourite Song, History of Yesterday, Frequency of Love. And although when History of Yesterday started for the first time, I accidentally thought I'd cued a 1975 song until the chorus hit. But all of the above tunes highlighted provide a more grounded stance that might sound reminiscent of the original style of Milky Chance that I know a lot of fans do miss. But for me, I can't help like this change that they've gone for. And sometimes, as we're well aware on this channel, change is a good thing. And for me, the change in direction Milky Chance have taken with this album and the general trend which their recent releases have gone was pretty much a necessary one. As although I loved Sad Necessary, I don't think creating that type of indie folk sad boy music was going to be sustainable for as long as Milky Chance have now been around. Now sure, maybe they could have squeezed out one or two more albums from it that had a similar style to Sad Necessary. But for me, ultimately, it didn't impact my impression of the band too much, as I've enjoyed their albums, including their albums Trip Tape 1 and 2 that contained a few cover songs, which I'd highly recommend checking out if you haven't already. I think Living In A Haze as a complete album works and flows quite coherently for me, with the main theme reflecting once again on romanticism, which I'd argue is pretty much all of Milky Chance's songs, as they tend to write about that kind of thing, which, although generic, is pretty much fine by me as it's a standard topic for artists to write about. And I think the band's work isn't adversely affected by sticking to such a topic, as realistically the songs they're producing, in my opinion, are to a pretty decent standard. I don't ever get bored with their music due to that intriguing mix of indie folk music and hip-hop. As always, you're getting Clement's fantastic moustache, providing him with some great vocals on this one too, with a few guest appearances throughout the album on Flicker in the Dark and History of Yesterday, which fit perfectly onto the tracks and don't break the immersion of the listening experience, or just the general groove and flow of the tracks. I guess for me, Milky Chance have produced another album that sounds pretty similar to their past releases, yet somehow still feels like a progression in their discography. Now, that might just be my hopeful reception of the album, I'm well aware of that. I could easily see how a lot of people think this is now just the same old from Milky Chance, trying to make pop music, but still I disagree. You can clearly feel some various styles seeping through the tracks, and although jokingly saying it, there does feel like an impact to some style of European disco, alongside some clear sway towards reggae-based tracks. For me, it's somehow an amalgamation of styles which overall are successfully blended together, in order to produce something that is both familiar, yet a nod towards something different. How poetic. Overall, in what I'd say is just another great Milky Chance album. Now, whilst I do fear this album is going to be churned up by certain fans for reasons previously noted, such as it sounding very similar to past releases, which were already edging out certain people of the Milky Chance fan club, shaving off their moustaches in an absolute rage. But generally speaking, I hope that people receive this album well, as it feels like a great one to have in the middle of summer, and I'm always welcoming to more Milky Chance. And overall, I think I'm probably feeling a pretty decent 7.4 for this album. For although I love it and it's great and it's more of Milky Chance and the development is there, it's just not enough development to blow me away. But I still absolutely loved it and I was grooving my little hips away to this. So I hope all of Moustache Gang is enjoying the summer and this new Milky Chance album, as I certainly am. Good for you, Clemens and Philip. Good for you both. And your fantastic haircuts and moustaches. As always, feel free to like and subscribe if you're new. And on that note, I think I'll say ta-ra for now, and I'll see you later.